Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and honestly there was a new PTR patch out and there is not a huge amount of PvE healer changes, but there's quite a few things that are happening with Holy Paladin and especially Legendaries. For the first time we can actually test some of these Legendaries in action to see how they feel, whether they're good, and basically make some predictions. Disclaimer guys, anything that I'm talking about right now does not mean this Legendary is going to be the best. We're kind of thinking out loud, we're kind of looking at how it feels. That's the most important thing. PTO is going to last a while, changes are going to happen, but how does the Legendary make the class feel? And honestly, we're going to start off with Kyrian, we're going to look at actual Necrolord, and we're going to look at Venthyr as well. So keep in mind that the Night Fae Legendary is not, you can't craft it, it's not even there, and to some extent Venthyr one cannot be crafted as well, but we're going to talk about it. So first of all, the good old Kyrian and the Legendary has changed again to some extent, but I have it here. I have it here, guys. After casting Divine Toll, you instantly cast Holy Shock. A single Holy Shock every 5 seconds. This effect lasts for 30 seconds. So this has been redesigned in a lot of different ways. At the start, there was so many different iterations where people thought you're going to be casting Divine Toll every 10 seconds or whatever. But the way that it works out right now, and in terms of strength, it feels to be pretty good. But generally speaking, if I'm not targeting anybody and I'm going to click Divine Toll right now, I'm gonna get this buff that every 5 seconds afterwards I'm gonna be casting Holy Shock on myself. And you can see it here being cast. I'm not doing anything right now, my hands are in the air. You can see it every 5 seconds. Glimmer is being applied, Holy Shock is being shot out, and I'm getting Holy Power. So I'm gonna use some Holy Power. Boom, Holy Power generated. And then in the next 5 seconds, 2, 1, another Holy Shock. I didn't have a target selected and it automatically triggered a heal on myself, which is all great and dandy. Okay, for example, I have no one selected and it's just gonna default heal me. What if I'm full HP? What if I already have Glimmer? Kinda sucks. This Legendary seems to promote quick exchange or changing of targets. You can select enemy targets, apply Glimmer every 5 seconds. Glimmer here, Glimmer here, Glimmer here. Or friendly targets. Select this guy, select another guy, apply Glimmer on them, apply Holy Shocks on them, and it's all great. But the problem is that most people, and I've tried this with mouse overs, like for example here, I tried to mouse over this friendly target right here, and in hopes to see if Holy Shock is going to be applied on them, it doesn't. You need to actually physically select the target. And considering that the majority of people right now in healer community are using add-ons or using mouse overs or add-ons like Click to generate or expedite their experience in terms of getting heals out quicker. This doesn't promote that gameplay. This promotes of legitimately manually selecting a target, waiting for the Holy Shock to be applied. Example here. We're gonna select this target, we're gonna use Divine Toll. We're gonna keep this target selected, it's going to apply Divine Toll in the next 2 seconds. It's going to apply Holy Shock on them, then we're gonna go to the next target. It's gonna apply Holy Shock on them. Then we're gonna go to the next target. Is going to apply Holy Shock. We applied Holy Shock initially. So these targets already have Holy Shocks because of the Divine Toll initial hit. But generally speaking, this is the kind of gameplay. You're swapping from targets to targets and trying to get Holy Shocks on them. And it honestly feels really clunky when you have to use it on friendly players. Because you have to manually target them. And during that 5 second period, they might already be full HP, if you know what I mean. So my initial response to this Legendary is that it is extremely troublesome. That's how I'm going to place it, because I think the fact that you have to go through this process to select friendly targets and apply Holy Shocks on them is going to be annoying. Also, you probably have seen that my Divine Toll cooldown, every single time my Holy Shock was being applied, Divine Toll cooldown went back to 1 minute. And this is a bug that has been reported, so I'm assuming it's not going to be like that in the future, so keep that in mind. I don't think the cooldown should revert back to 1 minute every time I get this Legendary proc. And I have been testing out multiple different things. Again, I'm in combat here, but I've been testing out multiple different things in terms of Pelagos. I've been using the newfound Resolve, which I have a clip here of showing you where this mob is gonna kind of spawn. And then you have to look at this mob. And if you don't look at this mob, it's gonna disappear. But if you look at it, if you face it, you're gonna get 12% intellect. And I've been trying out with this, and honestly, it feels kind of gimmicky. It's something very similar to what it used to be in BOD. There used to be a Sandy buff. I don't know if there's going to be a weak aura that you can track, because Blizzard has kind of historically made it impossible to do things like that, but there seems to be a really interesting and possibly broken interaction with this kind of soulbind here. So I've been running this, and the very bottom trait, effusive anima accelerator. So Divine Toll releases a blast of overcharged anima at target's location, dealing a certain amount of arcane damage split evenly between all targets over 8 seconds. And this is going to apply if you're like Mistweaver, this is going to apply to your weapons of war and things like that. So reduce the cooldown of Divine Toll by a certain amount. So I was kind of thinking, like, if I'm running this, and if I'm running the Legendary right now that shoots out Holy Shock, is this going to trigger the Holy Shock as a Divine Toll action? And this Divine Toll might be counted towards this all the time. And it works like this, actually. So generally speaking, if you're going to apply Divine Toll on enemies, there's going to be like dot applied. You can see it here. But what happens with this Legendary? It gets refreshed over and over and over and over again. So you can see it here right now. Everyone has this dot. Everyone's taking damage. And Holy Shock, again, it's refreshed on everybody. So generally speaking, this Legendary and the synergy between this Soulbind is kind of insane in terms of giving you additional damage. Does this feel like it's bugged or possibly not going to work in the future? Probably not. Like there's a clip here that I'm going to show you of how it should interact if you're not running the Legendary that I'm running right now. It's just basically going to give you this like burst AoE damage and then stop. But with the Legendary that I'm using right now, I can refresh it over and over. So that's kind of cool. Maybe Blizzard wants this to be an alternative option to providing more damage and competing with Venthyr. I'm not 100% sure. My initial reaction on this would be is that it is a bug and it's not supposed to trigger a Divine Toll action. Instead, it's supposed to trigger a Holy Shock action. Now, people might be a little bit confused about why I'm showing Necrolord, why I'm showing this Legendary, because a lot of popularity is, or a lot of eyes are on that Kyrian, a lot of eyes are on that Venthyr, because I don't want to say that this Covenant is going to be the best, this Legendary is going to be the best. I want you to make your own opinion about a gameplay that you would enjoy to play. And maybe that gameplay is going to be a really popular option in the future, because who knows what's going to happen. So this is why I'm going to showcase you the new Necrolord, basically Covenant Legendary, that and it's a helm here. So Vanquisher's Hammer gains an additional charge, an additional cast of World of Glory is empowered. Now you might not know what Vanquisher's Hammer is. Vanquisher's Hammer has been buffed so many times, and honestly I kind of thought it might make a comeback in the future, but the experimentation in live is so awkward because you have to dedicate a Covenant, you have to go Necrolord, you have to spend a lot of, you know, Soul Ash on Legendary. So I feel experimentation is kind of stifled, and this is why I feel these PTR test ramps are really important. So Vanquisher's Hammer throws a hammer at your target, dealing a certain amount of damage and empowering your next World of Glory to automatically trigger Light of Dawn. This used to cost Holy Power back in the day. Now it generates Holy Power. So you can see how the shift has happened in terms of buffing this ability from costing to generating. And the Legendary is going to give you an additional charge, an additional cast of World of Glory is empowered. So all of a sudden you're going to have a weird place. Like, keep in mind the charge system in World of Warcraft is really weird. It's not as good as people assume, because if you use your charges very quickly, all of a sudden only one charge is going to come back at that given point. So you're almost rewarded by kind of staggering your usage. So if, for example, you have to delay, for example, you only use one charge and then you delay using the second charge because there's no healing needed, that is kind of rewarded in this kind of charge system. You're going to be using Vanquisher's Hammer and all of a sudden you're going to get this buff. Now, this buff is really weird because it doesn't really showcase the charges on this. You actually have 2 charges here. So right now I have 5 Holy Power, I'm going to use World of Glory, Light of Dawn is cast straight away, and then I still have another charge that if I get 3 Holy Power, I use World of Glory. You can see Light of Dawn is automatically cast. And then again, this is a 2 charge system because I'm using the Legendary. I can use my Vanquisher's Hammer again, I generate my Holy Power, I use my World of Glory, Light of Dawn is auto cast, and I kind of go back. Again, I have 2 charges of the Vanquisher's Hammer, and I have 2 charges of the actual buff, which is not really indicated or shown properly on this weak order, but because the buff doesn't actually show you charges. So this playstyle gives you this Vanquisher's Hammer, 3 Holy Power, World of Glory, Light of Dawn kind of casted straight away. Before, when Vanquisher's Hammer required a Holy Power, it felt really bad, because you had to make sure you had a Holy Power, it would cost holy power, then you would have to generate 3 holy power to cast Wall of Glory. Now it feels pretty good because it generates holy power. You get 3 holy power, you cast Wall of Glory, and your Light of Dawn also automatically triggers. And I think it's kind of cool. Let me know how you feel about this gameplay. I'm not going to talk about the power of this because honestly it's a little bit too early. Now unfortunately I cannot craft the Venthyr legendary because it is not available. It is there but you cannot craft it. So you cannot fully test Radiant Embers in the way that a lot of people want it. But there has been changes on this week's PTR, and these are some significant tooltip alterations to kind of highlight because people were just genuinely confused about how this is going to work. So Ashen Hallow's duration is increased by 50%. First of all, Ashen Hallow's normal duration is 30 seconds. So if you get 50% increase on this, it's going to be 15 seconds. So 45-second total duration of Ashen Hallow. This is probably the biggest positive impact of this legendary that's going to drive its usage. 45 seconds on this ability with a 4-minute cooldown and possibly shorter cooldown is pretty good. And again, this can do a lot of healing. So the second part of this is that leaving hallowed area will end the effect. This is new. People had no idea how this is gonna work in terms of the cooldown reduction. So now they kind of said that if you leave the hallowed area, the hallowed effect is gonna disappear. And after this, I probably should read the whole thing. And its cooldown will be reduced by up to 50% proportional to its remaining duration. So you're gonna get some of the cooldown back, and it's probably to give you like, oh hey, I messed up, I pressed Ashen Hallow, and everyone needs to move away. I'm like, especially in things like PvP maybe, I'm gonna move out of it, it's gonna disappear, I'm gonna get some of the cooldown back. But that, I don't think that's the driving force of this legendary. In my opinion, the whole power of this comes from the actual duration increase. I also feel the fact that if you do leave Ashen Hallow and it disappears, there could be some incidents where maybe the boss was doing some certain effect and you had to move out for a second and then it's gone and then you're like, oh crap, I just screwed up this whole thing. I really, like, I placed it in a perfect position but I just misplayed it. But I can see why they did it, because the initial iteration of this legendary was that it didn't really mention if leaving it would remove its kind of effect. So people were saying that, hey, we could just put Ashen Hallow and I could just move out of it, get the full cooldown reduction and just let other people stand in it. And if I wanted something like Hammer of Wrath, I would just wait for my hammer to come back up, go in, hammer the boss, go out, get cooldown reduction, go back in, use Hammer of Wrath when it's off cooldown, go out. And this could have been, I don't want to say degenerate gameplay, but possible gameplay options for Holy Paladin before they actually made this whole thing where if you leave this, it's gone. It disappears. So overall, at the initial power that we're looking right now, it's looking okay-ish, good-ish. I don't know how to say it. I don't think it's looking as the best legendary right now. And this is very early days. And I think the true potential of this legendary really stems from the fact that your Ashen Hallow is going to be 45 seconds. I don't know how it compares to other legendaries at this given point, but guys, really let me know how you feel about this. Do you feel this is going to be an interesting legendary that you might craft, or do you think they should go other directions? How do you feel about the Kyrian one? How do you feel about Necrolord? Maybe Necrolord is going to be the next go-to. And I do apologize for not doing the Night Fae one, because Night Fae legendary is not actually in the game right now. You can't craft it in any shape or form, so I'm not going to look at that right now. But let me know how you feel about this. Big disclaimer, guys. A lot of this is field crafting type of deal. It's early looks. This does not mean that I made this video right now and in 2 months, when the patch is released, it might not hold up. There's probably going to be huge amount of changes that are gonna alter the potential of these legendaries. But it's important to look at how it makes the gameplay feel, or is it fun? Basically, is it fun, guys? Let me know.